First of all, I want to welcome you all to the House of Peace. And many of you know it already through and through. And I hope you have seen the flag. Did we put up the flag?
Yeah, the flag's up.
Oh, the flag is up. Yes, of course. We don't have a Speaker of the House, but we have a flag. And,
We don't need a speaker of the house.
we don't need it, no, because we have the flag. Oh, very good. And then I also hope you have seen the wonderful work of art which we have out there. So this the dove comes from Judaism on one side, and that is Noah's Ark. The dove told him that the flood was over, so we thought there was a flood today. The rain came down. And then the dove also comes from Christianity, from the Jordan River, where Jesus was baptized and the dove appeared. And then the dove is also in St. Peter's Cathedral up there. And so we are very ecumenical. So the question is, this is my 96th birthday, and what should one do then? So one should do two things, I think. First of all, to remember a little bit, and then also to remember earlier birthdays. I cannot remember now all 96 of them, but I can try to pick out a few, and then also to say thank you for all these birthdays. So today I remember some of my earlier birthdays very shortly, and I beg your patience. Shortly before my 6th birthday in 1933, fascism came into power. For 12 years I would live under National Socialism, which brought the war. Shortly after my 6th birthday, I became a member of the Catholic Youth Movement. Later on, I became a leader in this movement in Frankfurt. And now I have to get the right page here. And the movement, and for 12 years, I was also a member then of the Catholic Youth Movement, which was repressed by the NS state, and of the Hitler Youth too, which was all dominant in the SS state. So I experienced the cooperation of Catholicism and fascism, unfortunately, the fall of the church into the fascist temptation, as well as their contradiction, their struggle against each other, betrayal and martyrdom at the same time. That was a very tense growing up. I saw in many examples the yielding of the church to the fascist temptation, Pius XI and Pius XII, as well as its resistance against it. The subtitle of the 2-volume book Karen and I are working on right now is The Fascist Temptation. So what was then comes up again today. That is that it may not occur again. That is what we write the book for. Starting with the mutual contributions between Fox News and Eternal Word, and Raymond Arroyo, who works in both of them. Shortly before my 11th birthday in 1938, my father died during a cancer operation. His death was catastrophic for me and the whole family. Hard years followed. Shortly before my 11th birthday, I became a student in the elite humanistic Lessing Gymnasium, in which I studied Latin and Greek and Hebrew for 9 years. I was a little token proletarian with the function to give to a high-level bourgeois institution a good social conscience. It was hard. While many of the other students had been at the Nile River, I did not even know where it was. In my family, we did not even talk about the Nile River, but rather about more real things like frankfurters and hamburgers and rabbits, and maybe about Wiener Schnitzel on feast days. Shortly before my 15th birthday, I came in conflict with the SS and the governor of Hessen over an old Jewish lady whose luggage I had helped her to carry to the basement of the Lessing Gymnasium, an air shelter, a collection point for Frankfurt Jews. I lost my financial support for the Lessing Gymnasium, but it was paid then by the shoe factory ICA Schneider, in which my father and mother had worked. Authoritarian or fascist states are not so well integrated as one may think. There remain many hidden contradictions. Shortly before my 16th birthday in 1943, I was drafted into the German Air Force. I helped to protect the Rhine-Main airspace, particularly the cities of Frankfurt and Mannheim. I entered the Air Force shortly before the radar catastrophe of Hamburg. It was an Air Force panic. You probably can remember. My daughter was just in Hamburg, but I don't think she remembered anything. Very shortly, the British captured a German radar instrument, and they discovered that it reacted to silver paper as to the side of a bomber. And so they then made an attack and put silver paper on one side of Hamburg, and all the flak and all the airplanes went there to defend the city, and they attacked from the back with 1,000 bombers and destroyed all of Hamburg. So, and I was maybe three months in the Air Force when this happened, and my commander had the task to discover how one could change the radar so that it could differentiate between silver paper and airplanes. Shortly after my 17th birthday in 1944, I entered the officers' school of an anti-tank division in order to be trained to go to the Russian front, the Soviet Union, and fight atheistic communism, which moved closer and closer to the borders of the Reich. At the time, the life expectancy of a German lieutenant was 4 weeks. Shortly after my 17th birthday in 1945, I fought instead against General Patton's tank army, which had just crossed the Rhine River in the Battle of Aschaffenburg. We have Tony here. Tony's father fought in the same Patton group and was wounded maybe a few days before I got engaged with the same American battalion. So the Battle of Aschaffenburg, on Easter Sunday 1945, the front lines reached, the fighting reached its climax in the battle on the Hahnenkamm mountain. I lost my whole company. For 50 years I visited the graves of my comrades in Alsenau, the town nearby. On Easter Monday, without any comrades left except one Austrian sergeant whom I almost shot because he took the Austrian flag out of his uniform and said he had never been in the German army. And all the Canadian and American officers laughed themselves to death at the occasion. Nevertheless, I surrendered to American and Canadian officers in the forests of Alsenau. I became a prisoner of war in Germany, France, North Africa, and finally in Norfolk, Virginia, where I arrived as the youngest German prisoner. I was categorized as anti-Nazi because of my leadership in the Catholic youth movement in Frankfurt. The Jewish investigators knew Frankfurt better than I did. I was educated and trained to return to Germany and to help to transform the fascist state into a democratic or liberal state. I had to. Oh, yes, thank you. I don't want to exclude you from any kind of wisdom here. The fascist state into a liberal democratic one. Shortly before my 19th birthday in 1946, I returned from the United States to Germany, to Heilbronn, in order to help to denazify and to democratize Germany through the CDU, the Christian Democratic Union, of which I was a part, which is not in power at this moment. It's the Social Democratic Party. While at the same time, I completed my Abitur and began to study philosophy, theology, history, psychology, and sociology at the universities of Frankfurt, Mainz, and Münster for the next 7 years. Around my birthday of 1953, being 26 years old, I started my doctoral dissertation on a humanist and theologian heralding of the Reformation time, an Erasmian like Thomas More. The dissertation became the foundation for our critical theory of religion and society, which carried all our work since then and is still developing today, an encounter with the changing social context. Around my birthday in 1953, I also began to study at the Catholic University of America in a leadership program, a refresher course for what I had learned in Norfolk 8 years earlier and practiced in Frankfurt. As a matter of fact, I celebrated my birthday on the Andrea Doria in the harbor of Halifax, Canada, on the 1st of October, and really the climax of the celebration was in the swimming pool of the Andrea Doria, which they had let the water go out. So, nevertheless, but the Andrea Doria unfortunately sank in collision with another ship a few weeks later along the Italian coast. At Catholic University, I met my future wife, Margie. We got engaged in Switzerland, in St. Gallen, in 1955, and we married in Germany, in Dieburg, in 1956, and there started our family. Shortly before my birthday of 1962, at the age of 35, I emigrated with my whole family to Baltimore, Maryland, and began to teach at Loyola College and at St. Agnes College. From these two colleges, I came to Western Michigan University in 1965, where I worked for 50 years until retirement and the beginning of the golden age, full of meaning and happiness. The reason for our coming here was that at this, shortly before we came, one of the critical theorists, Adorno, wrote a famous article about the authoritarian personality, which is the fascist personality, having a possibility to appear in the United States. So we thought we had to fight against fascism now, not in Germany or Europe, but rather here. Unfortunately, the prediction was not entirely wrong. Now I'm ready to move from remembrance of birthdays to gratitude. I am grateful to our family for having grown up so nicely and for having developed the family tree all over the United States, from coast to coast and even into Canada. That has been indeed a great accomplishment. I am most grateful for our 8 children, 14 grandchildren, and 6 great-grandchildren. I'm grateful to my son Steve, who managed bravely our household at a very young age, from the time of the death of his mother to his departure to law school. I'm grateful to my daughter Agnes for having taken care of my medical problems after she had passed her exams in nursing school and in the WMU psychology department. I'm most grateful to Karen, who took over the household after Steve left for law school almost 40 years ago. Karen had been one of my best students in the Department of Comparative Religion before she went on to her master's degree and then went to teaching. Besides administering our household, Karen helped me in my academic work. Right now, we are still writing a book together. Karen accompanied me on my trips, not only in the States, but also to Canada, Germany, Croatia, Greece, and Israel. Karen became family. Karen created, together with our friend Bill, our great architect, the House of Peace, through one organic stage after the other in strict Trinitarian logic. Karen was our finance minister. Karen, later on, with the help of Ken, kept me alive up to my 96th birthday. They made it possible that I could teach into my 90s, and I could continue my work almost unchanged even after my retirement. Karen deserves to be canonized after the church has been reformed by Pope Francis and the present sodality movement. But even if she would not be canonized, she would still go to heaven where most people are not canonized. I would like to thank Karen and Ken for preparing our 96th birthday celebration, which supersedes in itself all the previous ones, back to October 1st, 1927. Today, I would also like to thank all those who have helped Karen with her wonderful work in the House of Peace through the years. There is first of all our great architect, Bill, and his dear wife, Ellen, and all his co-workers who created the House of Peace. There is our great lawyer, David, who has protected the House of Peace with the help of the law. There are Rebecca, who is writing my biography. There's Tony, there's Candice, there's Terry. Jenny could not come because they had a bad reaction to their COVID injection. And others who made life in the House of Peace possible. There are my great students, Mike Ott, Joe Lola, Dustin, Rika, Walter, Ali, and many others who helped to develop and research the critical theory of religion and society, and to spread it and to publish it. There are my great old friends, Gregory Baum and Edmund Ahrens and Hans Küng and Baptist Metz, and many others who corrected our work through the years. And finally, they practiced what in the church is called the correctio fraterna, brotherly correction, which I send always to Raymond Arroyo of the two famous stations, and sometimes I have the feeling that he changes something. Thank you all, and most of all, thanks to Providence, who has guided us all. I would like to offer a toast to my family and to my friends, that they all may reach their 96th birthday full of meaning and happiness. Life is good.
Prost.
That we all make it.
Okay, that we all make it.
Cheers.
You showed us the way.
Thank you. What do you keep filming of?